Well, yeah. So this contract, on July 28, 2006,
Yeah.
they put out a solicitation for non-standard ammunition,
Yeah.
which is like a semi-covert operation where they needed a ton of ammunition to prop up the Afghan army.
Correct.
What made this different from a standard contract?
Right. So, well, they call it non-standard ammunition just because it's not NATO caliber. That's the reference. Because the United States military uses NATO systems, so anything that's not NATO systems, they call it non-standard. That's where the name of that contract goes. This contract was by far bigger than anything else that they had done up until this point, and the reason for that was because this was mid-2006, and the Bush administration was worried that the next administration would be a Democrat, because Bush was super unpopular at this time.
Yeah.
And so they were worried that the next president would be a Democrat, and which they were right, Obama was the next president, but they were also worried that the next president would pull out of Afghanistan immediately and kind of leave the Afghans hanging, which they were wrong about. I mean, it took until like 2020 for Biden to eventually complete the pullout. So because of that, because that's what they were worried about, they decided to arm the Afghans to the teeth, like to arm them with enough ammo and weapons so that they could be okay for the next 30 years. That was the plan. And when they were doing this for the Iraqi army, they had split all the requirements up into like a bunch of little parts and got I think 30 different suppliers to supply like little pieces of it. And that became an enormous logistical mess. They had to deal with all these suppliers and it just became a big hassle for them to manage. So they decided instead of doing that, this time they're just gonna have one supplier for everything. And that's why the contract was so enormous. And so we bid on it, and we were by far the lowest bidder. I think eventually they told us that we had underbid the next closest competitor by like $52 million. And
well, yeah. It was a very unique situation because the money was only available for 2 years.
Right.
So they had to spend it quickly.
Yeah, before the end of Bush's term.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was the idea.
And there's no dollar limit posted.
Right. Well, they wanted to know how much they wanted the lowest price, but they wanted like 30 different types of ammo. Yeah.
And the thing about this ammo, and you kind of touched on this already, was it was non-standard U.S. ammo, which is easy to do. This is like, Russian mortars, GP-30 grenades, SVD Druganov sniper rifles, and so forth. And a lot of this stuff was basically on the black market or the gray market, however you want to decide. So the U.S. couldn't directly buy this stuff, or else it'd be like a PR nightmare.
Right.
So they had to go through brokers.
Right.
That's essentially buying illegal stuff.
Yeah.
In a way.
It's illegal. It wasn't completely illegal. As you said, it was more of a gray market than a black market thing.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is a lot of the people who are involved in selling this stuff are kind of shady characters that the U.S. government doesn't want to be seen dealing with directly. Now, these people, like Henry Tomei, they're not necessarily black market because they have not been convicted of anything. They are not necessarily banned, but they do have a lot of negative press around them. So the U.S. Army doesn't want to be seen directly giving them money, and even though it's technically legal, so they would rather have a intermediary between them and all, and also just for purposes of lowering their management hassle. They don't want to deal with 50 different suppliers. They want to deal with one, and it gives them a little bit of separation between them and all the accused mafiosos that are selling the stuff.
Well, you guys put together a contract.
Yeah.
For $298 million.
Yeah, that was our final bid.
How much ammunition could you get for $300 million at that point?
Well, it was about 30 different types of munitions. So it was everything from like 9mm pistol rounds, AK-47 assault rifle rounds, to heavy machine gun, grenades, anti-aircraft rockets, mortars, and like tank rounds. So it was an enormous shopping list of things. I think the AK-47 rounds, it was like either 100, it was about 100 to 150 million. I think they put it up later on. The grenade, they wanted 1.1 million GP30 grenades, like 70,000 anti-aircraft rockets. So it was an enormous quantity of munitions.
None of which you had at the time.
No, I mean, we had some potential sources for it, but yeah, we didn't own any of it. We were just middlemen. Okay.
This contract ends up getting accepted by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
So almost $300 million.
Yeah.
And you're like 25 at the time.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you heard that they actually accepted your bid?
I couldn't believe it. We didn't think that we were going to win. Because we knew we were competing against major defense contractors like General Dynamics, which is a publicly traded multi-billion-dollar defense contractor, was bidding on this contract amongst other companies like ATK Systems. All these multi-billion-dollar corporations were our competitors. And they have like 50, 60 years of past performance and experience. And so we did not think we were going to win, but we had delivered a lot of these items in much, much smaller quantities to Iraq. So we had the past performance. We technically qualified to bid on the contract. So we thought if we technically qualified a bid, we might as well put in a bid and see what happens. But our hopes were actually pretty low. So we were pretty shocked that we actually won the contract.